injection. Drop the clutch, pedal to the floor. Turn that giddy button to a lion's roar. Dream machine, racing queen. I'll take you wherever you wanna go. Let's blow this town, break the speed of sound. Tonight, we all know. Dream machine, racing queen. You make my heart beat. You make my heart beat. Dream machine, racing queen. You make my heart beat. You make my heart beat. Red on the highway, blue lights flashing behind me. Dream machine, racing queen. You make my heart beat. You make my heart beat. Dream machine, racing queen. You make my heart beat. You make my heart beat. Dream machine, racing queen. You make my heart beat. You make my heart beat. Red on the highway, blue lights flashing behind me. Dream machine, racing queen. You make my heart beat. You make my heart.
Dynamite was back from Arena, Mexico last week. They were back in the States. This time they were in Las Vegas. They were at the Palms Casino Resort. A very nice, intimate venue that we were in for House of Glory back in April. Very cool building. Unfortunately, they had a decent show at best. This was not my favorite Dynamite that they've done recently. It was all right. Nothing terribly exciting. We did have some developments, though, on this show. Unlike last week, we had Kenny Omega showing up on the show. Kenny Omega was not in Mexico last week. He was in the opening segment with Will Ospreay. They got that out of the way early. MJF wrestled for the first time since Beach Break when he lost the championship, even though he's still walking around with his belt. He was challenging for the right to enter number 2 in the Casino Gauntlet match coming up at All In. He was in the ring tonight with Speedball and Nick Wayne. And wouldn't you know, MJF is going to be entering at number 2 in the Gauntlet. This is my shocked face. Andrade was not on the show, by the way. There's another man who's been missing, a former world champion, a main eventer. We haven't seen him since Forbidden Door. I was starting to wonder if we were going to see him on the Wembley card at all, but he popped up tonight. Swerve Strickland is back. And not only is Swerve Strickland back, but I think they sort of teased that he may have some friends very soon in going after the Trios titles. The segment that he was involved in was a Trios title segment that involved the new champions and the old champions, the Demand. And there was certainly nothing too overt, but there was certainly a tease that Swerve may be going out to get himself some friends. Who might these friends be? I don't know. We'll talk about that. John Moxley, Jay White, they are moving on in the Continental Cup. They each had matches in the first round tonight. And we now know what the international title match is going to be at All In. It was made official. It's the match I've been telling you now for weeks and weeks. Tonight they made it official. So we're going to talk about everything that happened here on a very pedestrian episode of Dynamite tonight. It is indeed number one Jasta in the chat. It is a new day. Yes, it is. This is your AEW Dynamite review. It is Wednesday, August 12th, 2026. I am the Solomonster. Like and subscribe. I thank you for getting me recently to 93,000 subs. Now let's aim for 94. Super chats are open. We already got a whole bunch of them that came in. We got one that just came in now, in fact, from Barry.
Shut the fuck up.
There he is. Good old Barry MK.
Fuck that tree.
Thank you, Barry. Get to Barry's question and all of yours a little bit later on. We actually saw the learning tree, even though he's not the learning tree anymore, but we saw him tonight. He was wrestling for the TNT Championship. We'll talk about that as well. Let's get this out of the way first, then we'll get into all of the fun. How many people we got in here so far? People still filtering in. All right, 465 likes is the goal for Be the Booker later on, so you guys know what the goal is. I don't want to be peppered with, what's the goal? What's the goal? There's the goal. Let's get into this AEW Dynamite show, shall we? The announce team tonight. We had a little bit of a different team. Because they were out on the West Coast, Taz does not typically travel out west because of his neck. It's kind of a similar thing with Bryan Danielson, where typically when they're out west, we would see Danielson doing commentary on these shows. He wasn't on the show tonight. Taz, I wasn't expecting to be there, so we had Excalibur. We had Tony Schiavone, who's on all the shows. And we had Paul White, who's been doing commentary on Collision. They had him doing commentary on Dynamite tonight. I like Paul White's commentary. I wouldn't mind if they subbed him in there a little bit more often. I think that he is good in the role and the way that he sort of analyzes and breaks certain things down. So I wouldn't mind seeing him on the shows more often in that role. I don't know if this was just a one-time thing or not, but they did kick off the show with Will Ospreay, the number one contender for the AEW World Championship, making his way out to the ring.
Row, row, Roman Reigns gently down the stream.
Gotta row him. Gotta row him down there.
Row, row, Roman Reigns gently down the stream.
Gotta row him down there. Get him out of here. He don't even go here. It's Wednesday. Row his ass on out. Thank you, Bobby's World. We get enough of him on Mondays. He'll be back next Monday. Don't worry. The Tribal Chief is on his way back. He's going to initiate Solo Sikoa back into the bloodline. Ospreay said last week he had the honor of being in Arena Mexico again, and the fans knew just how to lift his spirits. Last year, he was nervous before the Grand Slam show because he got a text message from his mom that his grandfather had passed away that day. And it crushed him knowing that he would never get to see him wrestle again or see him marry his wife, which he did this year. He knows deep down that if he was still here, he would tell him to stop crying and go do a flip. Yeah, go do that flippy stuff that you do. Last week, 25 days out from the biggest match of his life, he was in a Mexican street fight, and it sucked to go through that Mexican street fight. But one person who was at home on his sofa watching all of it was the world champion because he was not there in person. Kenny Omega was not there last week. And he hopes that Omega realizes that Ospreay will be able to pull the trigger after what he saw him do to Mark Davis last week. Because that was the question. Can you pull the trigger? Right? He says, I hope he realizes now that I can. Tonight, he's going to show Kenny. Now, he knows Kenny is backstage. So he confirmed that Omega was there. He was there to earn his paycheck, as he said. So if Michael Nakazawa is not trimming his testicles, maybe you can come out and join. Is that what Nakazawa's job is? I always wondered what his job is. He's always hanging around Kenny. Is that part of the job description? Is he trimming his balls and his pubes? We didn't get Kenny Omega. We had Don Callis's noise. When you hear the noise, I don't know if you can call it music. When you hear the noise, out comes Don Callis. He said, while Ospreay couldn't wait to compete in AEW, Callis couldn't wait to exploit it. Back in 2020, Callis and Kenny, they screwed Jon Moxley, won the AEW World Championship, and they went on a run that was unmatched in the history of this company. And then Kenny made a very critical error. He thought that he could do it all on his own without Don Callis. So fast forward to 2023, he reminded Omega who his real daddy is. He stabbed him in the face. He put him in the hospital. Callis has done more damage to Omega's life than diverticulitis ever did. And it was around the same time that Callis brought Will Ospreay into AEW, and he wrestled Kenny at Forbidden Door that year. And Callis reminded Ospreay when Omega beat him in New Japan, who was in Kenny's corner. Right, it was him. So they both owe everything that they have to Callis. Anyway, at this point, RPG Vice runs in. They attack Ospreay from behind. He fights back. Here comes Mark Davis and Jake Doyle to join in the attack. Now Kenny Omega comes out. And Kenny Omega has a pipe. Not a crack pipe. He has some sort of lead pipe. I don't know where he got it from. But he brings it down to the ring. And he uses it to take out the various members of the Callis family. So Omega took the microphone. And he was teasing that he was going to hit Ospreay with it, and Ospreay's in the corner, and he's kind of shielding himself, and he stops short. And Kenny tells him he felt what he was just talking about. He felt what he said. And he asked Ospreay, what did you think was going to happen? He said that he warned him about Callis and Jon Moxley. He said the guy running around calling himself the real world champion, that guy's a problem for both of us. He stood over Ospreay, who again was down in the corner. He told him that this isn't the man that he wants to fight at Wembley Stadium. And he drops the pipe and he extends a hand and he pulls Ospreay back to his feet. And Omega says he hopes Ospreay understands that I can't help you again after this. And Ospreay said, I appreciate the help, but I didn't ask for it and I'm not going to need it again. But thank you. And he left. That was what we got this week from Omega and Ospreay. Which I will say a little disappointing, considering that Omega wasn't even on the show last week. He's back this week, and this is what we got, but this is what we got. Omega came off a lot more heelish the last time we saw him. This time, less so. I thought him cutting his... as Kenny was talking, it was like the worst of Kenny Omega. Like, just the way he was delivering that promo, it just annoyed me. It just annoyed me. Like, he's trying to be so overly dramatic that it just comes off as cheesy to me. I don't get that sense from Ospreay when he's out there cutting a promo. He's talking about his grandfather. He's talking about how much this means to him or his broken neck or whatever it is that he's talking about. He's very intense. He does so in a serious way. Kenny, he's kneeling down. He's looking at Omega. Again, it feels to me, it sounds to me like he thinks he's in some fucking anime. Like he's acting in some sort of anime. And I can't get it out of my head. So I wasn't a fan of that. But that's what we got from those two in the opening segment. Look, if you are looking forward to a Kenny Omega Will Ospreay match at All In, there ain't nothing that they're going to be doing on TV between now and then that's going to get you any less or any more excited to see that match. At this point, it's just a waiting game to get to Wembley and see how many kickouts do we have. I'm going to keep a counter. I should, actually, during the main event of that show. How many kickouts do we have from major moves in that match? I'm not sure what else they can do at this point outside of teaming them up. Like reluctant partners. You want to have a contract. It's not like we don't have contract signings in AEW. Kind of stupid. I mean, it's a formality at this point. Hopefully we'll at least get Kenny on the shows and he won't miss any between now and then. Now, after this, we had MJF, we had Nick Wayne, and we had Speedball, Mike Bailey. Kenny wants to be in anime. I wouldn't be surprised if he does. This is his audition tape. Every time he goes out there, he's auditioning to be in one. It just doesn't come across to me as authentic. I want to believe that he believes the things that he's saying. I can buy that with Ospreay. I can't buy that with Kenny. MJF, Nick Wayne, Speedball, Mike Bailey. The winner of this three-way match will be the number 2 entrant in the Casino Gauntlet match at All In. We already know who number 1 is. That person is going to be Andrade. Gee, I wonder who number 2 is going to be. MJF's leg, by the way, still heavily wrapped. Last time we saw him a month ago in the ring, it was wrapped still heavily. That's the hyperextended leg that he suffered back in June against Roosh. And he still has his AEW World title belt with him. The Triple B. He demanded to be introduced as the one true champion. So he immediately fled the ring as soon as the bell rang. And he goes over where the announcers are seated. And he takes Tony Schiavone's headset. And he says he's going to let these two twinks battle it out before showing why he is the one true champion. And then he thanked them and he called Schiavone a fat old prick. So MJF and Nick Wayne, they did a few spots here where Wayne was he was delivering body shots to Speedball while MJF held him. It's like they were cooperating, and MJF was like, "Good job, kid." Like they were working together here for a little bit. And then he noticed that MJF went to go steal the pin. And Nick Wayne pulled him off and said, "What are you doing? You're complimenting me here and you're trying to steal the win from me." And MJF tells him, he goes, you should just be happy that you're able to even be in the ring with me. And it was one of those moments. Now, again, it's an intimate venue. I mean, it's a venue that can fit in the range of 1,000 to 1,500 people, but it's a smaller venue. But even still, the crowd on this show, for a lot of this show, very subdued, very quiet. And at this moment, MJF, he didn't need a microphone. And you're hearing everything he is saying as if he may as well be on the microphone because it's so quiet. They quieted down so much. It actually sounded like he was mic'd up, but he really wasn't. It was just that quiet at that moment in the building. So anyway, Nick Wayne clears MJF from the ring. Speedball, he hit a springboard moonsault onto both men out on the floor. That took us into the picture-in-picture break. Later on, MJF swatted Wayne out of midair on a Wayne's World attempt, and then he powerbombed him across his knee. Bayley, though, flew in with a shooting star to break up the pin attempt. Bayley hit the ultimate weapon on Nick. MJF, though, just threw him through the ropes out to the floor and then quickly applied the salt of the earth on Nick Wayne, and Wayne tapped out. So MJF picks up the win. When the match was over, he took the mic, and he said he's walking into Wembley as the champion. There's nothing anybody can do to stop him. So we hear Andrade's music. We get a shot of MJF's face, and he looks all shocked, and then all of a sudden a smirk appears on his face. And he says, how you know that Andrade isn't here? Because he whooped his ass last week. That's how he knows. And he's a gutless worm. Says Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay are both terrified of him, and they need to get down on their hands and knees and pray that they don't have to face MJF, the one true champion. Match was fine. The outcome was pretty obvious. Once they announced who was going to be in this match, and once Andrade qualified as being number one in the Gauntlet, it became pretty clear who number two was going to be. So they're going to open that match. As I sit here now, we'll do predictions in a couple of weeks, but as I sit here now, I don't want to see MJF win this again. We already saw him do that last year. I said last week, 2 years in a row with the same Owen Hart winner on the women's side, 2 years in a row with the same Casino Gauntlet winner on the men's side. I don't want that. But I also don't see Andrade winning it. So I kind of feel like they're going to cancel each other out. Somebody else may end up getting the contract. Then these two can go on and they can just have their singles match. They can have their singles match at All Out. That could be the big All Out match in Chicago at the end of next month. We had Switchblade Jay White and David Finlay. Finally, we get these two one-on-one. And this was a first-round match in the Continental Cup tournament. They put a big graphic on the screen with all the rules. Look, no interference, and I don't think there are any time limits. As far as the rest of the rules, I don't give a shit. It was like a whole fucking graphic with too many rules. It's a fucking tournament. It's the first round. Okay, it's one fall to a finish. You lose, you're out. That's all you need to know. Now, but there was a spot here in this match where Jay White hit a deadlift German suplex, and he had David Finlay pinned, and the referee counts one, and he goes to count two, and Jay White, who executed the move and had the pin, let it go. So he lets the pin go. He immediately begins clutching his own neck. And in a way where the crowd went silent, not the only time they went silent on this show, but they went silent, like they were concerned that this might be a real injury. And the referee, I think it was Rick Knox, checks on him, and they want you to think he may be injured legit. And I assume they were just playing off the Dominator spot from the double chain match at Redemption, where David Finlay almost tripped over himself and almost broke this man's fucking neck. So I figured that's what they were playing off of. The announcers never brought it up. They let like a minute go by, and none of them brought it up until finally Tony Schiavone, and again, it was baffling to me that they weren't saying anything about the spot from the pay-per-view until finally Schiavone mentioned the double chain match. And again, it was like a minute later, and it was only in passing. And I'm like, that's kind of an important thing to really drill home, I would think, for the viewer and for the audience, especially if you were someone who didn't watch the pay-per-view and maybe you didn't see that spot, and so you're not as familiar with why there would be significance, right, to the whole neck thing with Jay White. But Paul White, the other White, on commentary said that maybe, Jay White suffered a stinger, but he was okay. He wanted to continue. So Finlay was looking for the Dominator. White, though, slid out. Both men traded some big move attempts until White hit a Dominator of his own for a 2 count. Finlay, he escaped a Blade Runner. He hit a Brain Buster for a near fall. And then Finlay was looking for the finish. White avoided it. He hit a Flash Blade Runner out of nowhere, and he got the pin. So Jay White is moving on here in the Continental Cup. He joins Claudio, Orange Cassidy, and Eddie Kingston in the next round, which is going to be a blind draw. So there's no bracket to show because we have no idea what the matches are going to be. And in theory, neither do they, because it's just going to be totally randomized. It's going to be their version of Be the Booker, basically. They're going to take all the names that qualify. They're going to put them in our little Be the Booker generator, push a button, and we'll see what it spits out. That's how this tournament is going to work. I still have Jay White against Jon Moxley as the final. I think that's going to be the final match. I think that's going to be for the cup and for the belt. That's my prediction. This was probably the best match that I've seen Jay White have since he came back from the injury. He had a match with Clark Connors many weeks ago on Dynamite that I just thought was very boring and very slow and just not interesting. The chain match at Redemption, I fucking hated that match. This was good. They had a good match. Hopefully he can continue to work his way through the tournament until he gets to the finals. After this, we had the new Trios champions. They won the belts from the Demand last week, who only had them for a week. Hangman Adam Page, Brody King, and Bandito out to the ring to celebrate their big win. Tony Schiavone was in the ring with them. And Hangman said, "Do you mind if I speak a little Espanol?" But now I don't know why he was doing that now and not last week. Does he realize we were at Arena Mexico last week? He should have come out to cut the promo then. Osprey Omega is Yugi versus Kaiba. Should I know what that is? That sounds like something I feel like I should know what that is. It sounds very epic, whatever it is. I don't know what it is, but Yugi versus Kaiba. He was going to speak Spanish. He didn't get a chance to speak Spanish, though, because he was interrupted by Swerve Strickland's music. We haven't heard that music in over a month. Probably closer to a month and a half at this point. Oh, Yugi. Oh, of course. Of course it's Yu-Gi-Oh! I should have known. I'm surprised it wasn't Luis who was making that comment. He's always talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! Prince Nana comes out first. He brings out Swerve to the ring with him. Swerve says this is, it's like trauma bonding. He sees 3 guys that he has had bad blood with in the past. Now all of a sudden they're buddies and they're the new Trios champions. What the hell happened to this place? I haven't been gone for that long. Because what do you guys have in common from your history, outside of your history, with me? And he goes down the line. Says he tore the house down with Bandito at Double or Nothing, and Bandito failed. And I realized at that moment when he mentioned that, I was like, you know what? Yeah, he's been doing a lot of that lately. Too much. Bandito was too good to be doing all of this losing. He lost to Swerve. He lost to Jon Moxley, right? And then he lost to Kyle Fletcher. It's like every big match that he's had, and he's the Ring of Honor World Champion, mind you, he's lost. So it's fun to watch him, and he goes out there and has these great matches, but he never fucking wins. But now he's the Trios champion, like that's supposed to mean something. All that did was, when I heard that, I was just like, man, he's lost a lot of big matches. I didn't even count the MJF match from the beginning of the year that he lost. Right, but of course he was going to lose that. Then Swerve turned to Brody King. He said the last time that he saw Brody, he was face down in a pool of his own blood. But this all seemingly comes back to you. And he looks at Hangman. Earlier this year, they were on the same page, no pun intended. But he takes his eye off Page for 1 second, and he loses any chance at ever again challenging for the AEW World Championship. And he asks him, so now what? What are you going to do now? Like, what's your legacy now? What are you fighting for? You just hanging around with these two for the rest of your career? Hangman says, unlike you, I never took my eyes off you. I've been watching everything that you've been doing, and you don't have any room to talk because you've done some heinous shit, and you have nothing to show for it. So they get interrupted by the demand. And out on stage comes Ricochet and the Gates of Agony, and the Lethal Twist is with them. Ricochet said that this was Trio's business. He questioned, why are you here? Looking at Swerve. And he complained about the Trios belts being stolen from them last week. He said, you're lucky this isn't the NFL because the replay would show that Toa Leona's shoulders were not down. And so he demanded a rematch. Ricochet said that Swerve has 9 guys out here on stage right now who hate his ass, so get the hell out of my arena. And Swerve goes to leave with Nana, but he turns and he says, you know, Brody may do all the barking, but Ricochet is the bitch. So then Hangman said that Swerve had a point. Page said that if you think that you're going to take the Trios titles back, well, then come to the ring and take them. And, you know, Ricochet and the Gates, they kind of made their way as if they were going to do it. And then he said, we'll do it on our time. So first of all, it's good to have Swerve back. Obviously, we now know he'll have some kind of role, at least on the Wembley card. The reason that I mentioned, like, at the beginning of the stream and in the title of the stream, like, New Day tease, right? Kofi and Creed, because he's now back to being Austin Creed. And it looks like Kofi may actually be going by the name just Kofi. Based on there's some sort of, I don't know if it's a Comic-Con or some kind of autograph signing that they have coming up, but they're being advertised as Kofi and Austin Creed. They are now free agents. They are no longer bound by their 90 days with WWE. They are free and clear, and if they're not already signed to AEW, they will be shortly. I'm sure that they've probably already got the contract signed. I would be blown away if they don't end up in AEW within a matter of weeks. So you're looking at Swerve here in this segment, and you're wondering, as I was, what is his role going to be at All In? What do they have in store for him, right? Well, let's see how they bring him back. Well, they brought him back in a Trios segment. It is a segment based around the Trios titles, which means that Swerve is likely going to reappear next week or the week after. It's going to have to be sometime in the next couple of weeks with 2 partners. And we're probably heading towards a 3-way Trios match, which kind of makes sense. You talk about Trios belts, where you have 3 teams. That's probably what we're looking at in London. Are we looking at a debuting Kofi and Creed being linked up with Swerve? Maybe we're not, because we could also very well be looking potentially at Swerve and the Hurt Syndicate, and I wouldn't mind that either. I know the Hurt Syndicate, I think they've popped up on Collision recently, but they haven't done much of anything. I've been waiting to, for them to get back in the mix, Shelton Benjamin and Lashley, and get them back on Dynamite. Maybe it's the Hurt Syndicate. But this feels like this is probably going to be their way of introducing the New Day under whatever name they're going to be using, introducing them to the roster. And I think that's fine. I mean, it's not the spot I would debut them in as far as like the Trios titles, because again, who cares? I mean, the real money, if you're going to bring them in, the real money isn't doing matches with them and the Young Bucks and some of the other teams they have, on the roster, even Cope and Christian. And they could still do that, even if they're wrestling for the Trios belts. You could still do those matches. They also may not want to blow through all the big matches right away, right? If the money matches for them are going to be tag team matches, right? Not singles matches. The biggest match they could do, because it's been teased for so many years, and obviously they're very friendly with each other with the video game stuff, it's the New Day and the Young Bucks. So they probably don't want to go to that right away. And the Young Bucks have their own thing going on. They're challenging for the tag team titles at All In. You don't need to add anybody else to that match. That's the first time ever Cope and Christian against, Matt and Nick Jackson. Keep that as is. So they have their business going on. This could be something to occupy them in the meantime until they're ready to eventually do that match. I don't know that I would even do that match until next year because there's really no reason to rush into it. So I'm thinking that we now have our direction for Swerve, and this is how they're going to introduce Kofi and Creed. And I mean, that's fine. Gives them something to do in the meantime. Saves the bigger matches for, down the road. But it's got to be either them or the Hurt Syndicate. And the Hurt Syndicate seem like they're exclusive to Collision these days. Daybreak. Yeah, we don't know what their name is going to be. I've seen that name being mentioned, Daybreak. Was it the Jericho Cruise that they were being advertised for? Maybe that's what they were being advertised for. You know who else is being advertised, I saw, for the Jericho Cruise? The Busted Open crew. Unless that was a swerve. I thought I saw something about the Busted Open guys being advertised for the Jericho Cruise. Can somebody confirm that? Can somebody look that up and confirm that? I saw something about that this morning. I thought that was very interesting. They aired footage of Renee Paquette conducting a sit-down interview earlier in the day with the Women's World Champion, Mercedes Moné. And I had saw before Dynamite went on the air, Mercedes had posted a video on her social media, and it looked like she had just attacked Willow, right? But it was like the tail end of the attack or after the attack had happened. So they showed what happened. It was a sit-down interview with Willow, and then in the middle of this interview, Mercedes hit her from behind with the Owen Hart Foundation belt. So she put a beat down on her, and she was asking, you want to embarrass me? Because she was very upset, right? She got pinned by Willow. So, and I said, like, everyone who was like, oh, your prediction that Mercedes may not win the championship, because, or she is going to win the championship because she's been taking too many L's here. She's been made to look bad too many times by Willow. I said, we have a few weeks left to go before we get to London. And she'll be able to get one over on Willow probably next week. And so she did here today. And I thought this was very interesting here because I don't know if you could hear. I'm sure you could because, again, it was quiet in the arena. But as they're showing this attack, you can hear somebody. Because the live crowd is still audible in the background. And you could hear somebody in the background just screaming, Sasha, come home. Sasha, we love you. Come home, Sasha. Yeah. Sasha's not going anywhere. Don't hold your breath. Sasha, if anything, Sasha is waiting for her friend to come join her. I don't know how soon she'll be able to do that contractually, but Sasha's not going anywhere. All right, so Isaac said Dave LaGreca, Nick Nemeth, and Bully Ray have been announced for the Jericho Cruise in November. So there you go. Sasha, come home. Meanwhile, this was Willow's response. She posted this on Twitter. She said, fuck this bitch. Which, for Willow Nightingale, that's harsh language there. Usually she's so peppy and so happy, full of smiles and rainbows. And now she's saying, fuck this bitch. Looks like Mercedes has pissed off Willow. We had Kevin Knight and Chris Jericho for the TNT Championship, a title that Jericho has never held. Knight tried to attack him early. He got spiked by a brainbuster. And Paul White's on commentary, and he's putting over Jericho as, the best tag team partner I ever had in my career. And he's had a lot of them. I mean, think of all the tag team partners he's had, right? Undertaker and Kane and Billy Gunn. Remember Shogun? One of the greatest tag teams of all time. You can't forget Shogun. Show Miz or Miz Show, whatever the fuck their name was. Jericho. Oh, God, I know I'm missing some. He had a bunch of tag team partners. But he said Jericho was his favorite tag team partner. Knight got clotheslined out over the top to the floor. Jericho did a dive out onto him on the floor. And he looks over because they're right in front of the announcers. And Paul White is sitting there. Thank you, Jersey Authentic. I forgot. That's their official name now. It's not Show Miz. It's not Miz Show. It's Shit Show. The perfect name. But he sees Paul White is sitting there and he goes over and he gives him a big hug and he's like, they're like posing together. We got a little Jericho reunion. And then we had Jericho chants from the crowd. Man, we go from "Come home, Sasha" chants to Jericho chants. I'm surprised we didn't get "Let's go Cena, Cena sucks" chants from the crowd tonight. So later on, Jericho countered a top rope Hurricane Rana attempt into an avalanche powerbomb, and then he transitioned into the walls of Jericho. And this is one of the dumbest spots that I have seen on any professional wrestling show all year. This will be in the conversation when this year is over. He's got him in the walls of Jericho, and he's got the hold locked on in the middle of the ring. Don Callis is on commentary. Now, Jericho's back is to Callis and the commentators. So Callis gets up. He scurries around to the other side of the ring so that he could be face-to-face with Jericho. But there's great distance between them. They're not near the ropes. Callis begins to climb into the ring. Now, they're showing Jericho, and Jericho is telling him, no. Right? He's like fucking Nikki from Obsession. No. He's telling him, no. And Callis, he retreats back out to the floor, and Jericho at this point, who already has the move applied in the middle of the ring, he moves towards the ropes. He intentionally shifts all the way to the ropes so that Don Callis can reach up behind the referee's back and hit him in the head with the fucking screwdriver. He fed himself to Don Callis, but in the worst possible way because he was so far away and the camera just stayed on them the whole time that he literally had to crawl to the ropes to allow Don Callis to hit him in the head with this screwdriver. Absolute, just like amateur hour here is what this was. I just like, come on, dude. Like, really? I'm sorry. You got to think of something else on the fly. Maybe let go of the hold and then like do something and then reapply it and you happen to be I don't know. All I'm saying is I'm watching this and I'm going, why is he moving to the ropes? Why is he feeding his head for the screwdriver? This was the stupidest fucking thing I've seen in ages. So, of course, the hold now is broken because he's been hit in the head with the screwdriver. Knight's free, and Jericho is sitting in the corner. So Knight goes to the opposite corner, and he hits the coast-to-coast dropkick, which Jericho then kicked out of. Then he positions Jericho for the UFO splash. And as Knight jumps off the top rope, Jericho catches him into the worst code breaker that you will ever see. This was not good. He sold it anyway. He sold it big time. He bounced up into the air, did Kevin Knight, before he landed on the mat. But there was no contact on this code breaker. Still got a close 2 count out of it, though. So then Jericho went for the Judas effect, and he whiffed on it. He almost hit Aubrey Edwards with it. And so she was temporarily distracted. And when Jericho turned around, Knight kicked him low and then hit his crash landing, spinning Uranagi finish. And he picked up the win and he retained the championship. So yeah, that was, it's too bad really because the match wasn't bad up until that point. And the crowd was kind of with it. And Jericho looked fine. It wasn't like Jericho looked bad out there or anything until the walls of Jericho. And then that just ruined the whole thing. It was so ridiculous. Like it was bad enough that I can't believe that he didn't just figure out a different way to improvise there. And I don't know if that was a case where Callis, was just kind of off the mark or mistimed something, or I don't know, something went afoul here, but holy shit, was that bad. I'm not sure this leads to anything more, even though Jericho, he had a cheat to beat Jericho. I'm not really sure that this leads to anything more with Jericho and Knight, Jericho and the TNT title. I hope not. It shouldn't, because the direction clearly for Wembley, and it's official now, the match has been made, it's going to be Darby Allin challenging for the TNT Championship, and it's going to be in a Falls Count Anywhere match. Falls Count Anywhere in Wembley Stadium. So they could get really creative with that. Hopefully they do. Hopefully they don't just brawl into the crowd. Anytime there's a Falls Count Anywhere match, I'm like, okay, cool. Get creative with it. Go backstage. Go into the fucking loading dock. Leave the fucking perimeter of the venue. Go into the bowels of the building. Go into the basement. Go into the sewer. Try something different. It's Darby. So Darby, I'm sure, is already coming up with ideas. Oh, where can we go? I'm looking forward to seeing what he comes up with. But there was a backstage promo with Darby later in the show where he said that if Knight can beat him at All In, he'll have proved to him that he was right about the potential that Kevin Knight had years ago when he first saw him. So that match is now official. Pin him in the toilet, says Pseudo. Yeah, I don't know about that. Although it does take me back to the Taskmaster Benoit match from Great American Bash, where Dusty Rhodes was on commentary. And never again will we have a commentary performance for a Falls Count Anywhere match quite like the one that we got from Dusty Rhodes that night, where he was so excited. He could not believe that these men had brawled into the men's bathroom and there was a lady in the men's bathroom. There's a lady in the men's bathroom. He was beside himself. He couldn't believe it. With that southern drawl. That is peak sports entertainment. We had Chris Statlander against Viva Van. Viva Van got a lot of offense here for the 3 minutes that they got. Statlander gave her a lot here. Van hit a missile drop kick, and she was celebrating. Instead of going for the win, she's busy celebrating. Then she covered Statlander, who kicked out a 1. Statlander put her down with the Wednesday Night Fever for the win. After the match is over, Mick Foley comes out to the ring. He points out his daughter, Noelle, is in the front row tonight, and he informs Statlander that per Tony Khan, she's going to be part of a 4-way match on Dynamite next week for the TBS Championship. It will be Statlander, the champion Maya World, and it will be Persephone, and it will be Hikaru Shida. And speaking of which, after Statlander cut a little promo on them, Persephone made her way out onto the stage, followed by Shida. Reason being, they were in a tag team match coming up next against the TBS champion Maya World and her partner, who I believe, is she the CMLL national champion? I believe is the title that she has, Thunder Rosa. Pretty standard stuff here, but the more TV time that Maya gets on these shows, the better for her. And the better for me, the more often we get to see Persephone, because I like Persephone. I'm a fan of hers. I just wish she would pick up more wins on this show. Persephone was holding Maya for Shida, who charged in and hit her partner by accident. Shida stumbled backwards, and Maya hit the bridging fall-away slam for the win. After the match, Statlander came back out to the ring, and she celebrated with Rosa and Maya. I'm not really sure why we're doing this 4-way match next week, and why they're not saving that for Wembley. Maybe it'll make more sense coming out of it next week. Maybe she loses it next week and has to challenge to get it back. I mean, that would be awfully fucking stupid, given that they just put the belt on Shida on July 1st. Before the month was even over, they put the belt on Maya World, and now you're going to change the belt 3 times in less than 2 months? I can't imagine they do that. So what I'm thinking is Maya wins, and maybe it's none of these women. Maybe a new challenger emerges. Maybe somebody who is not even on the roster yet. Maybe it's somebody that we're not even thinking of. Maybe it's a new face. And that person emerges and gets a shot at Wembley. Could be. Could be any number of people. Or they could just put the belt on Persephone. That would make me very happy. Why don't we do that? Why don't we get the belt on Persephone? I know she already has one. She's got the CMLL Women's Championship. I'd be okay with that move too. I kind of feel like they may be introducing somebody new, though. Ruby Soho coming back to... I had completely forgotten about her. I didn't even know if she was coming back to wrestling. A few weeks ago, everybody was talking about Kairi Sane. Who's to say that she doesn't show up and debut next week? Renee was backstage with Kyle Fletcher, the international champion, and Don Callis, congratulating Kyle on his successful TNT title defense on the show last week against Speedball Mike Bailey. Fletcher says that Speedball always brings out the best in him, and now he can defend his international title in another country at All In. And on that note, Don Callis was all excited, and he said, look, I spoke to Tony Khan about you defending your championship on that show against a former international champion who never got his rematch. And Fletcher says, oh, please do not tell me that it is Takeshita. And he said, well, yes, but he also added another former champion who never got his rematch. And in walks Kazuchika Okada. And Callis says that this guarantees that the title is going to stay in the family. And Okada said, as long as the title stays in the family, that is the most important thing. And he says this with a big cheesy smile on his face. And then Callis and Okada, they fist bump each other like dweebs. And then off goes Kyle. He doesn't want to have anything to do with this, and he just walks away. So there it is. I mean, I've been talking about this for weeks. It was pretty clear this is the direction that we were headed in. That's going to be an incredible match. You have a match with Takeshita, Okada, and Fletcher all in the ring at the same time. I mean, how does that not steal the show? How do you have it? I think they're incapable of having a bad match. At worst, it would be an excellent match. At best, it would be an outstanding match. Either way, it's going to be great. If it could be as great as the match was between Okada and Takeshita at Double or Nothing, that could be match of the year right there. So that's going to be great. And speaking of Kyle Fletcher, the international champion, just announced, actually, as soon as Dynamite went off the air. Nope, that's not it. There it is. The House of Glory show coming up in Los Angeles. Our next show, September 4th, Fallout at the Globe Theater. We have the international champion himself, Kyle Fletcher, and he's going to be getting in the ring in a special attraction to take on the Amazing Red. I guess the question is, though, by the time we get to Fallout on September 4th, will Kyle Fletcher even be the international champion? Now, this is not a title match, so it doesn't matter necessarily, but you see the title over his shoulder here on the poster. Will he even still be the champion come September 4th? That is the question. It's going to be a hell of a match, though. I'm looking forward to being on the call for that one. They closed the show with Jon Moxley, the Continental champion, taking on Jack Perry. This was a first-round match here in the Continental Cup tournament. They sent this main event out to the ring, and the bell rang at 10:04 p.m. So this is now a regular thing where we're getting overruns every single week. Tonight it wasn't a 35-minute overrun. I think it was a 21-minute. It was like 20-plus minutes was the overrun tonight. Renee said that this is the first singles meeting between these two men, and these are two men who, between them, have held every men's championship that there is to hold here in AEW. And it's do or die for Jon Moxley, because really every match he has in this tournament, if he loses, then we are guaranteed a new Continental champion. His title is effectively on the line every single time he goes out there. Gee, what do you think the chances are that he was not going to make it out of this match here with Jack Perry in the first round of the tournament? Doesn't seem too likely to me. Moxley smashed Perry's head off the ring post, and Jack Perry comes up bleeding, because of course he does. So we are required to have blood on this show at least once every single week, and so this was the obligatory blood that we have on this show. So Moxley is kicking his ass. They come back from break, and Moxley is telling him, do you want to be a big boy? You want to be a main eventer? Perry fights back. He hits a drop kick that sends Moxley out to the floor. Then he hits a low tope, back in, another one through the ropes, back in, finally big somersault out onto him, then a moonsault. Back inside, Moxley turned Perry inside out with a lariat, and he hit a gotch-style pile driver for a near fall. So another lariat drops Perry, and this, I guess, take your pick between this and the Jericho spot. The Jericho thing was worse. I thought the Jericho thing was much worse. But he's got Perry down on the mat. And Moxley is, they're trying to show that this kid has more heart and guts than brains, and he's bloody, and he's being beaten and battered, and he just won't give up, right? He won't quit. Moxley's got him down, and the spot is that he's raining down these elbows, but he's raining down these terrible elbows. And he's pulling his elbows because obviously he doesn't want to really elbow him, but he's pulling him in such a way where he's throwing these elbows are so weak and they're not connecting. And I'm begging them to please switch the camera angle. Just please, for the love of God. Just switch to like a view from behind or the side or something, anything. And I'm like, God, this is so bad. This just looks so bad. So finally, Paul Turner gets in between them. He pulls Moxley off of him. And it looks like he might end the match. He might call the match off. It's like a mercy killing. Perry, though, refuses. He won't allow him to do so. Perry gets up. He slaps Moxley across the face. And then he flips him the double bird. And the last act of defiance, basically. Perry tries for a pile driver, and it's like a stalling pile driver. He's taking forever and forever and forever. And finally, Moxley backdrops out of it because he took too fucking long. But then he rolls through, does Perry into the snare trap. Moxley, though, fights out of it into the bulldog choke. They both got to their feet. Perry started to fade. Moxley, though, he ended up hooking both legs. He took him back down. And at that point, there was nowhere to go. There was nothing for him to do. And Perry went out cold. And after the match was over, Moxley extended a hand to him out of respect. Perry shook his hand, and that is how they closed the show. So they were adhering to the code of honor here, I guess, at the end of this show. There's a good match. It was the best match of the night. I thought this was better than the MJF three-way. They tried to make it, as dramatic as they could. That was the story they were telling. Again, this kid won't quit. Is he going to pull off this huge upset? The answer is no. And it went exactly the way that we all knew it would. The outcome here was never in doubt, but they tried. Pretty predictable stuff, I would say, so far through the first round. The first round's not over yet, but so far, pretty predictable stuff in this tournament. We'll see if that changes in the next round. I'm going to stick with my prediction, though, of Moxley and White in the final. I just feel like, predictable as it may be to some people, it's the match that makes the most sense. The Dogs and the Bang Bang Gang have been going at it now for a while, but so have, Jay White's group and the Death Riders. And so for this tournament to culminate in Moxley and Jay White came back. He missed 15 months. And for him to go to the finals of this tournament and be the one to uncrown Jon Moxley and take that championship from him, I think would be appropriate, and get some gold on Jay White. Got plenty of gold to go around. This is the title that would make the most sense, I think, to put on him right now. So that was Dynamite. Now, I said this is not the end of the first round. Collision this Saturday, which I think is being... did they tape tonight? I think they were taping Collision tonight. But the remaining first round matches are going to be airing on Saturday. It's Brian Cage against Hechicero, Roderick Strong against Kyle O'Reilly, and Nigel McGuinness against Katsuyori Shibata. Talk about random. So that will finish out the first round. They also said Mercedes Moné is going to be wrestling Zeta Steel. I like Zeta. I think she's someone who could be a star in that division. And Hangman and Brodito are going to be defending their trios titles against the Lethal Twist. I don't know, guys. They may not make it to London. Swerve and his partners and the Demand, they're hoping to wrestle Hangman and Brodito for those belts at Wembley Stadium. It may not happen if the Lethal Twist walk out of Collision as the new trios champions. What do you think? You want to put some money down on this? Do they have those bets on Kalshi right now? Can you place your bets on who's going to win? I would not be putting any money on that. But that was Dynamite. Not the best episode. Not the most exciting show, but again, it was newsworthy. And I think we covered pretty much all the key things that happened here. And it does feel like the New Day are on their way in. If they are debuting, I almost feel like it has to be next week. All right, you don't want to wait. I mean, you could always save it, I suppose, as a surprise, but that's the sort of thing you would want to know. You know what I mean? You would want to be able to promote that and advertise that going into that pay-per-view. And we're only a couple of weeks away, I think. So maybe we'll see him next week. Let's check out your super chats here. Check them on out. Get those questions in. We'll hang out here for a little bit. And for those who joined late, the likes goal per the wheel was 465. We are currently at 334. So right now, no Be the Booker. This does happen on Wednesdays. Every now and then we'll get lucky on a Wednesday and we'll hit it, but right now it's not looking like we're going to hit it. But we'll start with Death Scythe here on the Super Chats, who says, I remember reading years ago on a wrestling article, and I wish I could find it again, but apparently it was going to be Rock Austin Taker at Vengeance, which would make sense because Rock Austin were tied for the most WWE title reigns, and Rock could have pinned Austin to become the sole record holder. So you're talking about Vengeance 02. Austin had walked out at that point. Yeah, I don't know where you read that. I would love to know the source on that. I never heard that. Austin, as I recall, was involved in stuff with Benoit and Eddie Guerrero at that time. So I don't know if that's true. We got Death Scythe again with a super chat. It says, and also heading into WrestleMania 19, Rock could have said to Austin, I pinned you in the tag team WWF versus Team Alliance match at Survivor Series, and then I pinned you in the triple threat match to win the title at Vengeance. Sure, if he was originally going to be in the match, I just don't know if that's accurate. Awesome Assassin says, I've been meaning to ask this question for a while. When all is said and done, do you think the Young Bucks will go down as one of the all-time great tag teams? Yeah, I mean, they have to. They have to. If you just, based on nothing else other than just influence and impact and their role in the creation of AEW, I mean, they have staked their place of importance in history. Now, where you want to rank them personally on your top 5 or Mount Rushmore or whatever you want to do, that's a very subjective thing. But I don't see how they're not in the conversation. The answer is yes. Does buy or sell on the better theme song for Orange Cassidy? Where is My Mind or Jane? Jane. Jane, of course. I don't like the other song. I'm not a fan of the other song. Deathside says, I also think it's funny how Cody Rhodes called Randy Orton the last legend left in WWE. Says, yeah, Rey Mysterio would like a word with you, Cody Rhodes. Yeah, I had somebody yell at me in the comments section on my SmackDown review. Like, I scripted the fucking line in the promo. But basically, like, y'all are forgetting R-Truth. It's very convenient you're forgetting R-Truth, who was there through all the different eras, the Attitude Era, the Ruthless Aggression Era, the PG Era. I'm like, I don't write the fucking promos, dude. What was this y'all? I know you're not lumping me in that y'all. Noah says, how do you feel about Jericho's run since returning? Feels lackluster. Give me Jericho and Swerve. I think Jericho is exactly where he needs to be. Out of a main event program, out of anything at the top of the card. Does it feel lackluster? Yeah, it does. But I'd rather have him doing what he's doing now than A, doing the learning tree stuff, B, leading another faction of people that are left to die in the background, or C, wrestling for any kind of major championship, which I know is funny to say that given that he wrestled for the TNT title tonight, but it's not like he was ever going to win. Jericho is where Jericho needs to be right now. Those spots above him are occupied or should be occupied by other people, younger people, newer people that they should be working to get over. Dry Chicken says, if you fuse Britt Baker, Jade Cargill, Charlotte Flair together, you get Megan Bayne. Okay. And then coming in with the 12 says, last Friday, I watched High Intensity on YouTube, an awesome show. That commissioner guy wearing that salmon suit looks so good. Steve Harvey would love to borrow that suit. I think Steve Harvey probably spends more money on one suit than I have spent on my entire collection. Then again, maybe he doesn't spend any money at all. You know, on a lot of those game shows, they usually have that message, you know, wardrobe provided by. He may not spend anything on those suits. You may get them all for free. But yeah, that commissioner guy is pretty cool. I like how he lays down the law when decisions have to be made. Says also, I bet the commissioner will give anyone a world's strongest slam backstage with that salmon suit. It's actually coral. It's a coral suit. Now I sound like Rick from The Walking Dead. Coral. Coral. Daniel says, thoughts on Big Show on the mic. Well, I already answered that earlier. I like him on commentary. I think he's good. I'd like to hear more of him on Dynamite, where they have an opening for him to do so. He's not better than Taz. Obviously, when Taz is able to be on the show, probably more on the East Coast, I'd rather he be there. I don't think we need Shivani on commentary though. Shivani's on commentary for Collision. And then so many times, like tonight on Dynamite, 2 different times, they had him in the ring to do an in-ring interview. Let that be his role on Dynamite. And you can have a team of Excalibur and Taz who were fucking hilarious together when it was just the two of them in the old AEW Dark days. So I would be fine with the 2-man team of Taz and Excalibur on Wednesdays. But if they want to give Paul White some reps on there, I think that's fine. Death Scythe says, what wrestling story has made you laugh the most? I don't know that there's anyone that comes to mind before the Jim Cornette Dairy Queen story. That's a classic. And the best part is that the video is actually on YouTube. So yeah, I gotta go the Jim Cornette Dairy Queen story. I think as I recall, it was a late night. I don't remember everybody who was in the car. It was during the Smoky Mountain days. It was very late, and they were hungry. And they came upon a Dairy Queen and placed an order, and it was taking forever. And come to find out that the workers, I think, didn't make the order because they thought it was like they ordered so much food, I think they thought it was like a prank, like a rib. And so when Cornette, after waiting 20 minutes, realized that the food was not being prepared, I think he just had a fucking meltdown and went to go confront these people, I think at the drive-thru. So that's a classic. There's a story that Samoa Joe told many, many years ago. I think it was in an RF video shoot about AJ Styles. AJ Styles is, a hardcore gamer. He's also a sore loser. He doesn't take, and I remember this from the days of Up, Up, Down, Down when they would play Madden or whatever they would be playing in AJ, like whenever he would lose. AJ's the kind of guy who would like smash the controller in a fit of rage. It's basically me. But Joe told this story. They were at I think they were at an arcade somewhere. This is years ago in the ROH days. And he was just whooping his ass at like Tekken 4. He was beating him over and over and over again in Tekken. And AJ's wife was there. And all she wanted to do was leave. AJ would not leave. He would not allow them to leave until he beat Joe. But he just kept losing. And Joe was like, yeah, AJ's wife is crying. All she wants to do is leave. So he finally just let AJ beat him. Just so that, you know, to have mercy on the poor guy's wife. So that he would finally leave. He was like, we're not leaving here until I beat him. There's been a lot of funny stories, though. Over the years. Yes, it was Wendy. The early days of Joe and Wendy. There have been a lot of funny stories over the years. Undertaker told the story of Paul Bear had, I think he put cucumbers in Undertaker's hat one night. And Undertaker does not like cucumbers. So I can only imagine his reaction when he realized that the cucumbers were in the hat. So to get back at him, as they were on the road, Paul had to go to the bathroom. He had to pee. And he kept telling Undertaker, turn off here, turn off at this exit or rest stop or whatever. And Undertaker would always pretend like he just missed it. Like, oh, I'm so sorry. We'll get off at the next one, right? But he kept doing it. And, you know, Paul just got to a point where I think he pissed himself because he couldn't hold it in anymore. I think he said Paul didn't talk to him for a while after that. But I'm pretty sure that was revenge for him putting the cucumbers in his hat. Yeah, he does not like cucumbers. They're like his kryptonite. Deathside says, mine is his favorite wrestling story is Kensuke Sasaki and Akira Hokuto having you know what so loud that it woke everybody up and the cops had to be called. Yeah, they talked about that on the Dark Side of the Ring episode many seasons ago when they covered Collision in Korea. They were banging each other so loud and so hard that the authorities were called. Think about that. I mean, that's got to be loud. That's got to be sending like reverberations throughout the entire building. Good for them. Lakers Pat says that the Triple H EDP memes have been funny on Twitter. Yeah, so I got an education in this last night on TNT. I did not know who this EDP person was. And so I had to look him up. And then I saw his name, which, I mean, told me everything I needed to know about him. But then I started going down the rabbit hole. Like, who is this guy? Who is this guy and why is he popular? And all I knew was that he's like an Eagles fan. And then I kind of went down the rabbit hole and I'm like, wow, yeah, that's pretty fucked up. I actually saw the interview that he did. He sat down with Chris Hansen. And Chris is calling him out for all of these things, and he's not even disputing any of it. Like, the guy's a fucking pedophile, and he's, like, proud of it. It's like, yeah. How is this guy still walking and breathing? Aaron says, my biggest takeaway from this show is the tease of Swerve with a New Day. There's money in that. If that's the team, I think there's probably trios titles in their future. Dry Chicken says, I'm making a bold prediction for All In. AEW will surprisingly sign both Leon Slater and Myla Grace. Okay, so that's his prediction there. Barry, if you had to watch every one-on-one match that's ever happened of the same two wrestlers, who would you pick? of the same two wrestlers, huh? Man. I mean, take your pick, man. I mean, you got Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar. You got Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker. You got Stone Cold and The Rock. You got Brett and Owen. You got so many to choose from. Hogan and Savage. Flair and Steamboat. You know what I would pick, honestly? Out of everything I just mentioned? You know the one I think I would go with? Sting and Big Van Vader. I never saw a bad Sting and Vader match. I fucking love those matches. I don't think I would ever get tired of it. Bobby's World with the 21. Says, what up, Solo and chat? Miss you guys. Finally saw Obsession a couple of weeks back. Amazing movie. Some of the shots in it, just brilliant. Says, great suggestion. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I love the use of the lighting. Like in so many scenes where she's so dark you can barely see her face. It's just so, it just adds to the creepiness of it. Luis says John Cena versus Randy Orton. Okay, we got to get him out of here. That should be a perma ban right there. Arabian Night 2000 says, yes, my Swerve and New Day trio idea is happening. I think it is. I think you're right. Daryl Strawberry says, sing us a song. You're the piano man. Sing us a song tonight. Well, we're all in the mood for a melody, and you've got us feeling just right. Griga says, I'm craving French toast. Love the Lord says, hi, Solo. Good show. We have 9 matches for All In. Was Mercedes Moné live on a Twitch stream when she attacked Willow prior to Dynamite? I don't know. You're asking the wrong person. I'm not subbed to her on Twitch, so I just saw the clip on X. So I don't know if that was actually live streaming anywhere. Says, I want to see one more match added to All In. Motor City Machine Guns versus FTR. Who do you think faces off for the TBS title? I said earlier I could see coming out of the 4-way next week, Maya retaining and then a new person like a Kairi Sane or somebody showing up and that being the match for All In. I could see that. That'll be my bold prediction for next week. Pseudo. Swerve plus New Day equals dangerous consequences and Kofi. And Isaac says, even though his second run didn't last past All In, are you disappointed we never got the eventual Punk versus MJF feud, this time for the world title? Yes. There was more meat on the bone there. And they absolutely would have circled back around to it, and it would have been great. And we never got it. And the only way we're ever going to get it is if MJF eventually goes to WWE. I'm not sure he will end up in WWE at a time when Punk is still active. It may be that long. It may be a while. But I do hope one day we get to see them mixing it up again on the mic and in the ring. Because their feud, even now after all these years, their program together, their feud, their promos, their matches are some of the best the company's ever had in the 7 years of its existence. Thank you, Isaac. So 465 was the goal, and unfortunately, we are currently at 369? 389. So we are going to have to try our luck again on Friday during the SmackDown stream. So bring your thumbs and we'll try again then. Brand new episode of the Uncrowned Wrestling Show just went up yesterday. I finally had a chance to talk about the Roman Reigns controversy from the Conrad Thompson comments last week. It ignited this whole debate on social media about whether or not he is the most overrated main eventer in WWE history. I did a whole segment on it that is exclusive to Uncrowned. It will not hit the YouTube channel, so you got to go check it out there if you want to listen to that. I would love to get your feedback. We got a couple of late super chats here. We have EJ Slimp coming in. What wrestling matches are too intense or emotional for you to rewatch? Think Schindler's List, but obviously not a literal Why would you even mention that? What? Why was that the first thing that came to your mind as an analogy to use in this situation? There's nothing on that level. There's nothing on that level. But I know what you're saying though. But let's not mention that. My God, the Schindler's List of WWE. As far as a match that is too emotional, I don't know. I'm still kind of floored by that mention there. I mean, you could say if there's a match out there that I don't know, that where someone got seriously injured, I probably would. I can't get over that. Do they show the match in black and white? Are we going to go the full Monty with it? Yeah, I don't know. Off the top of my head, is there a match that I avoid because it's too intense or too emotional to watch? Not really. I mean, nothing that I could think of. I mean, there are matches that I don't want to watch because they might depress the shit out of me because they're just fucking terrible, or it's someone who is past their prime, they're washed. Maybe I don't have any interest in wanting to remember them that way. So maybe something like that. Yeah. Or as Isaac mentions in the chat, you got Jenna Maraska and Charmel in TNA. That gets me a little emotional, I think, if I was to go back and watch that. I mean, the closest thing I maybe, in terms of a match, maybe that made me uncomfortable. There have been like hardcore matches, like super violent matches. I mean, that's not really anything I care for. I guess the one that comes to mind in terms of WWE that I would say makes me uncomfortable enough that I don't have any interest in going back and rewatching it, and I haven't for many years, would be the I Quit match from the Rumble in '99 with Rock and Mankind. Just all the chair shots to the head. It's just as fucking brutal as they were, and his hands are cuffed behind his back. It's a fucking work, dude. And it should never, ever get to that point. That's not what wrestling is supposed to be. It's like at that point, you've crossed over into a snuff film. And I don't see how anybody can derive any pleasure from that, just knowing that this guy is taking all of these unprotected, hard fucking chair shots to the head. And his fucking wife and kids are in the crowd watching this and crying. We didn't know that at the time, but we do now. Like, I have no interest in going back and rewatching that. So that's probably the one I would think of. Robert Peterson says WWE still has an old video of Kenny Omega cutting a promo in his New Japan days. WWE has an old video? Where do they have that video? He did wrestle in Deep South, which was a developmental promotion from them many years ago. EJ says, I mentioned it like a movie that you acknowledge it's great, but emotional and gut-wrenching. A better example is Requiem for... Oh, I never saw Requiem for a Dream, so... The Wrestler I did see, yes. I saw The Wrestler. Now, I think Rock and Mankind would be my answer. To me, that would be the most obvious one. Loves Cat says seeing Bray Wyatt matches are emotional. I miss him. You know what? To that point, I might throw Benoit matches in there, not because I get sentimental about them. I really don't give a shit about going back to watch great Chris Benoit matches. Like, I don't mind if, let's say, I'm watching something on, like when they had the WWE Network, and if they were going to be showing something on like the main feed or channel, and it was a Benoit match, right? Some people avoid anything Benoit related. They can't look at him. They can't stomach the thought of watching his matches anymore. I'm fine with watching a Benoit match, if something gets uploaded and it looks interesting to me, or if it comes on. I don't, run away or, immediately reach for the remote to change it and turn it off. But I don't derive any real pleasure out of it. I mean, maybe except for the Falls Count Anywhere match with Sullivan. And that's strictly because of Dusty Rhodes. It's not something I really have an appetite to go out of my way to watch anymore. And he obviously had a lot of great matches. The matches with Kurt Angle, and I don't find myself seeking that out. Because I can't watch it without being reminded of something just absolutely horrible. Death Scythe says, I have another song recommendation for everyone. It's called Dance in Hell by Seelenzorn. It's their only song in English, and it's such a badass song. Well, there it is. Everybody needs to go check that out. Seelenzorn. What is the I haven't checked WrestleTix recently. What is the current count on the attendance for All In? I have a bet going with someone. They were predicting 50,000. I was predicting in the range of like low 40s. I don't know what the latest number is, though, as far as where they're at, because we still have 3 weeks to go. So depending on where they're at now, it may cause me to start sweating a little bit for my prediction. I was saying like 40 to maybe 43,000, like somewhere in that range. They're at 39. Wow. So they're already at 40,000 with 3 weeks to go. Shit. Oh, man. Well, maybe it'll fall somewhere in the middle then. Maybe we'll both be wrong. Maybe it'll be like 45. The fact that they're at 40, though, is good for them. That's a good sign. I didn't think they were going to hit 50. They hit 50. I think it was 50 or 53 2 years ago. The last time they were at Wembley. I figured it will be less this time. 40-ish sounded realistic. If they could hit 50 again, that's a great sign for them. They should be very happy with that. I still don't know that they'll do that, though. And EJ says, would Phil A. Buster be a great manager name? His whole gimmick is rambling nonstop about his wrestler and never shutting up. It could be entertaining. That actually sounds the opposite of entertaining. I like the name, though. The name is very creative. Filibuster. But him actually rambling nonstop about his wrestler and never shutting up, we basically have that already. His name is Don Callis. Do we need another one? I don't think we do. All right, so as I said, I will be back with you on Friday. I missed last Friday because I wasn't here, but I'll be here on Friday. We'll cover SmackDown. The title match is not this week. No, it's next week between Owens and Punk. So we'll cover SmackDown on Friday. And then this weekend coming up, we have a brand new sound off. That'll be episode 976. I watched the latest Dark Side of the Ring episode earlier today on Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff. I thought it was a very good episode. I have a lot to say about that, including stuff that was not covered in the episode. So there'll be a brand new Dark Side of the Ring review as well. So a lot of content coming up. Thank you guys for a fun stream. Until next time, be well, stay safe, have yourselves a great rest of your night, Hit that like button on your way out if you have not already done so, and check out all the other content here on the channel. I will see you back here on Friday for SmackDown Post Show. Until then, take care, guys.